Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. The Miami Hurricane fans over the last couple of weeks in the comments section kept saying we're going to have a lot to talk about with the Hurricanes over the next couple of weeks. And y'all were spot on in the comments section. We got another commitment to talk about in Simeon Barrow Jr., former Michigan State defensive lineman committing to Miami. This is really one of the premier targets for a lot of Power 5 programs during this spring transfer portal window, and one of the better pass rushing interior defensive linemen that you'll see in the country. And I think this is a perfect fit in terms of what Miami was looking for on that inside of the defensive line. There were a lot of names Miami could have gone after. I think there was a reason that they decided to make Simeon Barrow Jr. the priority target on the inside of that defensive line. I want to talk about what he brings to this Hurricanes defensive line. I want to talk about how this defensive line is going to shake out heading into 2024 before we get into it. And as always, just want to say thank you to you guys, the Miami Hurricane fans. Y'all know it's been a blast for the last 7 days, and the amount of support y'all have shown as we've broken down all of these commitments. It's been amazing. Can't thank you guys enough. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into Simeon Barrow Jr. now. As a Michigan fan, I am very familiar with Simeon Barrow Jr. And I'll say this, the Michigan offensive line over the last couple of years hasn't had that many problems with opposing defensive linemen. Simeon Barrow Jr. was certainly one of those guys that gave the Michigan offensive line trouble at times. And what Simeon Barrow Jr. really brings to the Hurricanes is that real pass rushing threat from the inside of the defensive line. And you look at why Miami identified Simeon Barrow Jr. as that target they wanted is, I think you look at that defensive line, you probably wanted a little bit more of a pass rush presence on the inside. Simeon Barrow Jr. definitely brings that to the table. You get into Simeon Barrow Jr., 3-year starter in the Big Ten. I'm going to read you some numbers from the last couple of years. 30 starts over the last 3 years. In 2023, 17 quarterback hurries, a 14% pass rush win rate from the inside. In 2022, had 19 quarterback hurries. In 2021, had 17 quarterback hurries. I think you're really looking at one of the premier pass rushers on the inside of that defensive line that you saw in the Big Ten the last couple of years. And I don't get at 24/7 Sports that much with the transfer portal rankings. I think they do a really good job normally. I look at Simeon Barrow Jr. and say 67th defensive lineman available in the portal. I don't know if there's 50 defensive linemen better in the country than Simeon Barrow Jr., much less in the portal. This was a premier target for a lot of Power 5 programs. The Hurricanes come in and really get it done. Now, what fires me up the most about Simeon Barrow Jr. coming to Miami is you look at the defensive line, and let's start on the inside first. Guys like C.J. Clark, Horton, and Moten, those are going to be your guys that really have that run-stopping presence on the inside. And that's not a knock on guys like C.J. Clark, but they don't give you that much pass-rushing juice from the inside. Those are the guys that are not going to fill the stat sheets up, but they're going to let other people play at a higher level. You bring in a guy like Simeon Barrow Jr., he gives you that pass-rushing presence on the inside, which at the college football level is relatively rare. You don't see a ton of premier pass rushers on the inside of the defensive line. Simeon Barrow Jr., in my mind, is one of those guys. I think Simeon Barrow Jr., Marley Cook probably represent that pass rushing juice on the inside to kind of balance off C.J. Clark, Horton, and Moten. That's how you want an interior of the defensive line to look like. Right, you have guys that can do different things, excel in different circumstances. When you're playing teams that want to run between the tackles, C.J. Clark's probably a guy that you're going to lean on during those games. But you talk about teams that want to spread you out, pass the ball around the yard a little bit more. Simeon Barrow Jr. is going to be a massive asset in those kind of circumstances. And you look at really how this Hurricanes defensive line is constructed. It's extremely deep. I think it has that top-end talent, and we talk about it all the time. Yes, you want the top-end talent heading into a 2024 season, but I think more importantly, especially for what the Miami Hurricanes want to do, when you talk about winning games in November and December, and I'm a broken record when it comes to this, having depth is massively important, right? You look back at the teams that have won national championships, played their best football during the month of November and December. The Michigan Wolverines in 2023, the Georgia Bulldogs over the last couple of years. yes, they've had star talent, but they've also had a ton of depth. And I think that's exactly what Mario Cristobal has built in this Miami Hurricanes defensive line. I think you got on the inside of that defensive line, but 7, 8 guys that you feel really good about heading into 2024 with guys like Armando Blunt, Justin Scott, potentially adding a lot more juice as guys that are going to be true freshmen for this program. And then you look at the edge rusher position, and we know that's kind of the strength of this Hurricanes team. Guys like Ruben Bain, one of the best pure passers, really one of the best pure edge rushers that you'll see in the country. Akeem Mesidor, a guy that not a lot of national media college football analysts, if you will, are going to be talking about. When he was healthy in 2022, he was awesome for the Hurricanes. I think he's going to be a massive player for this Hurricanes program. You look at a guy like Austin, you bring over from Marshall, one of the best pass rushers at the group of 5 level. You got a ton of pass rush juice at the edge rusher position. Then you look at the inside of that defensive line and say, we have our guys like CJ Clark that are going to be kind of doing the dirty work, being a presence in the run game, not stuffing the stat sheet. Then you have guys like Simeon Barrow Jr., Marley Cook, who give you a ton of juice from that defensive, from the inside of that defensive line in the pass rusher department. I'd probably shout out a guy like Anthony Campbell as a guy that you go back to the spring game and say, he kind of looks the part as a guy that could contribute for the Hurricanes in 2024. And why I think this is so big for the Hurricanes is it goes back to what was our biggest question mark for this Hurricanes program heading into the spring transfer portal window and largely heading into 2024. Now, I've been extremely vocal that almost every single box is checked for this Hurricanes team. The back end of that Hurricanes defense, the secondary, that's probably been our biggest question mark, and they've done some really good work bringing in a guy like Deanna Hill. If they bring in a guy like D'Angelo Pons, you feel really good about what that Hurricane secondary could be. But even if you have some question marks about it, I always go back to Georgia in 2021. Hurricane fans probably have heard this story before. Georgia had a ton of question marks about the secondary in 2021. Those question marks didn't really matter for the Georgia Bulldogs during that 2021 season because the front seven, that pass rushing unit, didn't really allow teams to sit in the pocket and throw the football down the field because offensive lines couldn't protect the quarterback. And you look at the Hurricanes and why I think Simeon Barrow Jr. is so big, you look at trying to alleviate some pressure on maybe a young Hurricanes defensive back room. The best way you can do that is getting a really good pass rush unit on the field. And I think that's exactly what the Hurricanes have heading into 2024. It's no secret, right? Going into the spring transfer portal window, we said, I don't have that many question marks about the defensive line for the Hurricanes. That being said, Mario Cristobal, when he has an opportunity to make the line of scrimmage play better, whether it's on the offense or defensive side of the football, he's going to try to make the line of scrimmage play better. And you see it in the transfer portal. You see it in the high school recruiting classes. There has been a strong emphasis on building this program through the line of scrimmage. And now that Mario Cristobal has had a couple cycles under his belt, both in the transfer portal and the recruiting classes, and this is a Hurricanes program that going into 2024 is probably one of the better teams, not only in the ACC, but in the country along the line of scrimmage. When's the last time we've said that about the Miami Hurricanes? We've had some skill. We've had some guys that we're excited about, but when was the last time we looked at a Miami Hurricanes team and said their strengths of this program are along the line of scrimmage? I can't remember that last time. You look at this team heading into 2024, that's exactly what you're saying. Simeon Barrow Jr., a pass rush presence on the inside, guy that was coveted by a lot of Power 5 programs, massive addition for the Miami Hurricanes. We said it this morning. I think the big winner for the Hurricanes or in the transfer portal has been the Miami Hurricanes. That still stands true with Simeon Barrow Jr. You land a guy like D'Angelo Pons, I think you got a lot of boxes checked in terms of the Miami Hurricanes heading into 2024. It's been a blast talking about this program. Hopefully we have more to talk about over the next couple of days. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later.